August 15, 1965.
Shea Stadium, New York. The roar is deafening. 20,000 voices merge into a single wall of sound that crashes against the concrete like thunder. Flash bulbs explode in rapid succession, creating a strobe-like galaxy across the stadium bowl. Girls clutch their chest, screaming until their voices crack. Boys pump fists in the air, their faces red with excitement. And then, four figures appear on the distant stage. The Beatles. The crowd erupts. Not cheers, something beyond cheers, something primal. The sound is so intense that the concrete beneath 20,000 pairs of feet begins to vibrate. Security guards exchange worried glances. Even the police look nervous. But in Section 12, Row F, Seat 18, sits an 8-year-old girl who isn't screaming. Her name is Sarah Mitchell. She's pale, almost translucent in the harsh stadium lights. Her blonde hair is thin, wispy, catching the breeze that sweeps across the upper deck. While everyone around her loses their minds, she sits perfectly still. Her small hands clutch something against her chest. A sign, hand-painted in careful, childish letters on cardboard torn from a cereal box. The paint is uneven, some letters bigger than others, but the message is clear. Please sing for me one last time. John Lennon strikes the opening chord of Twist and Shout. The stadium shakes. Paul's bass line cuts through the chaos. Ringo's drums pound like a heartbeat amplified 1,000 times. George's guitar weaves through it all, sharp and clean. But Sarah doesn't move. She just holds her sign higher. The woman next to her, her Aunt Margaret, leans down and whispers something in her ear. Sarah shakes her head. She keeps holding the sign. Her thin arms tremble with the effort, but she doesn't lower it, not once. John's voice soars over the instrumental chaos. The crowd sways as one massive organism. But something strange happens during the second verse. John's eyes, scanning the crowd as they always do during performances, land on Section 12. He sees her, the pale little girl with the cardboard sign. She's not moving like everyone else. She's just there, still as a photograph in a room full of motion. John's voice wavers for just a moment, just a split second. But in a band as tight as the Beatles, a split second feels like an eternity. Paul glances over. George turns his head. Even Ringo, hidden behind his kit, notices the subtle shift in rhythm. The song continues, but something has changed. During the brief pause between Twist and Shout and Please Please Me, John walks to the edge of the stage. He shields his eyes against the spotlights and peers into the crowd. He's looking for her, the girl with the sign. There, Section 12. She's still holding it up. Her arms must be aching by now, but she doesn't stop. Paul notices John's distraction and follows his gaze. Then George. The three of them stand at the edge of the stage, squinting into the sea of faces, all focused on one small figure in the distance. Before I reveal what happened next, a moment erased from official history. Subscribe now because these are the untold stories the world almost never heard. The stories that show us who these four young men really were when the cameras weren't rolling and the press wasn't watching. Ringo starts the drumbeat for Please Please Me, but something's wrong. John doesn't come in with the vocal. He's still staring at the girl. Paul's bass continues, but he's looking at John with concern. The crowd doesn't notice yet. They're still screaming, still lost in their own frenzy. But the band has stopped. Not officially. The drums keep going. The bass keeps thumping. But the heart of the performance has paused. John walks back to his microphone, but instead of singing, he leans into it and speaks. Hold on, he says. His voice, amplified through the massive sound system, cuts through the crowd noise. Not completely. 20,000 people don't stop screaming just because someone asks them to. But enough people hear him that a ripple of confusion spreads through the stadium. Hold on, John says again, louder this time. Paul stops playing bass. George lets his guitar fade. Ringo, confused, keeps drumming for a few more beats before the silence becomes too obvious to ignore. His sticks hover over the drums, uncertain. Now the crowd begins to quiet. Not completely silent. That would be impossible. But the volume drops from a roar to a murmur. 20,000 people suddenly unsure of what's happening. John walks to the very edge of the stage. He points toward Section 12. There's a little girl up there, he says into the microphone. His Liverpool accent makes the words sound gentle, almost musical. She's got a sign. Can you see her? The crowd follows his gaze. 20,000 heads turn toward Section 12. Spotlights swivel, searching. And then one by one, people begin to spot her. The pale little girl with the cardboard sign. Sarah feels the attention like a physical weight. Thousands of eyes finding her in the darkness. But she doesn't lower the sign. If anything, she holds it higher. What's your sign say, love? John calls out across the stadium. His voice echoes off the concrete walls. The question hangs in the air, but Sarah is too far away. Her voice, even if she shouted with everything she had, would never carry across that distance. But someone else's voice does. please sing for me one last time. It's Margaret, Sarah's aunt. She's standing now, cupping her hands around her mouth, shouting the words on the sign. Other people in section 12 pick it up, repeating it. The message spreads like wildfire. Please sing for me one last time. The chant moves through the stadium in waves. First section 12, then section 11, then 10, 9, 8. Within moments, 20,000 people are chanting the words from a little girl's cardboard sign. Please sing for me one last time. The Beatles stand on stage, stunned. They've seen crowd enthusiasm before. They've experienced the madness that their presence creates. But this is different. This is 20,000 people unified behind one small girl's request. John looks at Paul. Paul looks at George. George looks at Ringo. No words are exchanged, but the decision is made. Would you have stopped the show for one child, or kept playing for 20,000? Right then, John says into the microphone, "Let's get her down here." The crowd erupts again, but it's different this time. It's not the wild screaming from before. It's something warmer, something deeper. 20,000 people suddenly invested in one little girl's story. Security guards receive hurried instructions through their radios. They begin moving towards section 12, but it's not easy. The crowd doesn't want to let them through. Not because they're being difficult, but because everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to be part of getting Sarah to the stage. It takes 15 minutes. 15 minutes of careful movement through packed stadium rows. Sarah, still clutching her sign, is passed from person to person like something precious and fragile. Hands reach out to steady her. Voices whisper encouragement. Strangers smile at her with tears in their eyes. Finally, she reaches the stage. But the Beatles don't make her climb up. Instead, John Lennon climbs down. He drops from the 4-foot stage onto the concrete floor where Sarah stands with 2 security guards. The crowd can barely see them now, just the tops of John's head and Sarah's small figure. But the entire stadium holds its breath. John kneels down so he's at Sarah's eye level. Up close, he can see what the distance had hidden. She's sick, very sick. Her skin has that translucent quality that comes from too many hospital stays. Her eyes are too big for her face, too bright. Her breathing is shallow, careful, but she's smiling. "Hello there," John says softly. "I'm John." "I know," Sarah whispers. Her voice is barely audible even this close. "I'm Sarah." "That's a lovely name." "Sarah what?" "Sarah Mitchell." "I'm 8. 8's a good age. I was 8 once." John glances at her cardboard sign. "You made that yourself?" She nods proudly. "Aunt Maggie helped with the letters." "It's brilliant, really brilliant." John looks up at the stage where Paul, George, and Ringo are watching. He waves them down. At first, they hesitate. Leaving the stage during a performance goes against every instinct they have as performers. But they see John's expression. They see Sarah. One by one, they climb down. Now all 4 Beatles are standing around one 8-year-old girl on the concrete floor of Shea Stadium. 20,000 people crane their necks to see, but most can only catch glimpses. The moment feels impossibly intimate despite the massive audience. "We hear you wanted us to sing for you," Paul says gently. Sarah nods. Her grip on the sign tightens. "Are you poorly, love?" George asks. It's a simple question, asked with such genuine concern that Sarah's eyes fill with tears. She nods again. "Do you think a single wish can outweigh the expectations of an entire crowd?" The doctors say. Sarah starts, then stops. She looks at her Aunt Margaret, who has somehow made her way down from the stands and is standing nearby with tears streaming down her face. Margaret nods encouragingly. "The doctors say I don't have very long," Sarah finishes in a rush. "So Aunt Maggie brought me here because you're my favorite. All of you. I listen to your records every day in the hospital." The silence that follows is profound. Not just from the Beatles, but from the entire stadium. Even 20,000 people seem to sense the gravity of the moment. Ringo wipes his eyes with the back of his hand. George stares at his shoes. Paul's jaw tightens with emotion. And John takes Sarah's small hand in his. "What would you like us to sing?" he asks. Sarah's face lights up. For a moment, the sickness disappears and she's just an 8-year-old girl talking to her heroes. "In my life," she says without hesitation. "That's my favorite. It makes me think of all the good things." John exchanges glances with the others. It's not an easy song to perform without instruments, without the studio arrangement, but they nod. Right then, John says, "But you have to help us, yeah? Can you sing along?" Sarah beams. "I know all the words." What happens next has never been officially recorded. There are no video cameras capturing it, no professional audio equipment picking up the sound. Just 20,000 witnesses and 4 young men from Liverpool about to do something that will change them forever. John begins to sing, his voice carrying clearly in the hushed stadium. "There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed." His voice is different without instruments, more vulnerable, more human. The melody floats through the air, and even in the vast space of Shea Stadium, it feels intimate. Paul joins in on the harmony, then George. Their voices blend together in a way that's both familiar and completely new. Without the instrumentation, without the studio polish, it's just 4 voices singing together. And then, impossibly, Sarah's voice joins them. It's small, fragile, barely audible audible beyond the circle where they're standing. But she's singing. Every word perfect, every note true. Her 8-year-old voice weaving through theirs like a silver thread. The stadium is completely silent now. 20,000 people straining to hear, not wanting to miss a single word. Some are crying, some are holding their breath. All of them are witnessing something that will never happen again. As the song continues, other voices begin to join in, quietly at first, people in the front rows who know the words, then more and more, until the entire stadium is singing along to a Beatles song that's being performed without a single instrument. In My Life, I Love You More. The final notes hang in the air like something sacred. When the last echo fades, the silence is complete. 20,000 people and no one makes a sound. Sarah looks up at John with shining eyes. "Thank you," she whispers. "Thank you," John whispers back. And then the crowd explodes. But this time it's different. It's not the wild, chaotic screaming from before. It's something deeper. Something that comes from having witnessed an act of pure human kindness. The applause goes on and on, building and building until it becomes something more than sound. It becomes a statement. A declaration that love is bigger than fame, that compassion matters more than showmanship. The Beatles help Sarah back to her seat, though it takes another 20 minutes to navigate through the crowd. This time, though, the journey is different. People don't just want to touch Sarah. They want to thank her. They want to tell her how beautiful that moment was. She's gone from being a sick little girl in the crowd to being the reason they just experienced something magical. When the band finally returns to the stage, they're different. They've been changed by what just happened. The rest of the concert continues, but the energy has shifted. It's warmer somehow, more connected. 20,000 people and 4 musicians united by what they've just shared. Later, much later, after the last song has been played and the last fan has left the stadium, the Beatles sit in their dressing room in complete silence. They're exhausted, but it's more than physical tiredness. It's the emotional weight of what they've experienced. "Think we'll get in trouble for stopping the show?" Ringo finally asks. "Don't care if we do," John replies, and he means it. They all do. Was it reckless? Or was it the most human thing they ever did? 3 weeks later, Sarah Mitchell passes away in her sleep at New York Presbyterian Hospital. The Beatles are on tour in California when they receive the news. They send flowers, white roses, Sarah's favorite, but they never speak about it publicly. It's too personal, too sacred to turn into a press opportunity. But the people who were there that night never forget. 20,000 witnesses to a moment when 4 young men chose humanity over showmanship, compassion over commerce. They tell their children about it, their grandchildren. The story spreads through families, through communities, becoming part of the Beatles' legend in a way that's deeper than any hit song. Some say the Beatles continued sending flowers to Sarah's grave every year until they broke up. White roses on the anniversary of that night at Shea Stadium. Others say John Lennon kept her cardboard sign in his home studio, though no photographs of it ever surfaced. The truth is, no one knows for sure. The Beatles never confirmed or denied any of it. They simply returned to their lives, their music, their careers, carrying the memory of a little girl who reminded them why they started making music in the first place. But here's what we do know. The next time the Beatles performed In My Life in concert, John's voice cracked slightly on the opening lines. Every single time. For the rest of their career together, that song carried something extra. Something that hadn't been there before. Something that 4 young men from Liverpool learned from an 8-year-old girl in New York. That music isn't just entertainment, it's connection. It's love made audible. It's the bridge between one human heart and another. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, if you're very brave, if you're willing to stop everything and listen to what really matters, sometimes that bridge can hold the weight of 20,000 people and one little girl's last wish. The official records of that Shea Stadium concert don't mention Sarah Mitchell. The setlist shows no interruption, no unexpected acoustic performance of In My Life. According to history, it was just another Beatles concert in a string of Beatles concerts. But the 20,000 people who were there know better. They know that on August 15, 1965, 4 young men chose to see one small face in a sea of faces. They chose to hear one quiet voice above 20,000 screaming ones. They chose to remember that behind all the hysteria, all the fame, all the madness, music is really about one simple thing: human connection. One heart speaking to another, one soul recognizing another, one person saying to another, "I see you, I hear you, you matter." That night at Shea Stadium, Sarah Mitchell mattered more than the schedule, more than the expectations, more than the pressure of 20,000 paying customers. She mattered because she was human and she was hurting and she had one simple request. And 4 young men from Liverpool, in a moment of pure instinct, chose love. The spotlights have long since been turned off. The stadium has been demolished and rebuilt. The Beatles have gone their separate ways, and 3 of them have left this world entirely. But somewhere in the memories of those who were there that night, a little girl with a cardboard sign still holds it high. A song still hangs in the air, sung by voices that blend perfectly together. And 4 young men still kneel down to eye level with someone who needed them to remember what really matters. That night, was it really about music, or about the eternity of one little girl's wish? Maybe that's the question we should all be asking ourselves. In our own lives, in our own moments of choice, when we have the power to stop everything and listen to what really matters, what do we choose? Fame or humanity? Commerce or compassion? The expectations of the many or the need of the one? Sarah Mitchell knew what she chose. She chose hope. She chose to believe that 4 strangers might care enough about one small voice to change everything. And she was right. That night at Shea Stadium, love won. And maybe, if we listen carefully enough, if we're willing to stop our own shows for the people who need us most, love can win again. Sarah's story lives on, not in official records or documented history, but in something more powerful, the memory of what human beings can be when they choose to see each other truly. In my life, I love you more. She sang those words with 4 young men who changed the world. But that night, she changed them right back. And perhaps that's the most beautiful Beatles story of all.